Our son finished his postdoctoral work at the Lawrence Laboratory and accepted a position at Hewlett-Packard in Palo Alto. He moved there at the end of 1977 or beginning of 1978. I thought about this for a long time and wrote to Helena that we must help him buy a house and start a normal family life. I also wrote that we should begin setting money aside for our grandchildren, starting with small amounts and increasing them later as our situation allowed. At that time, inflation was high and the market volatile, so we began with a savings account that offered very high interest rates and also started investing small amounts in the stock market. I was not entirely sure about the investments, so Helena contacted a broker in Albany. The help was not fully satisfactory, so we kept accounts with 2 different brokers. Around that time, Helena was on sabbatical and worked with Dow Chemical in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati lived one of her cousins whose husband had been a commercial counselor at the Polish embassy. When the time came to return to Poland, they decided to stay in the United States. We tried to help the husband start his new life, and whatever we lent him was later returned. Between 1978 and 1985, there was also the problem of Helena's housing. She lived in a house owned by the college and had the opportunity to buy it. I strongly encouraged her to do so, and even sent money for the purchase. However, she hesitated for a long time. She worried about the repairs needed and the fact that the entrance and courtyard were shared with another house. In the end, she decided not to buy it, a decision I still consider wrong. Because she did not buy the house, someone else purchased it, and she had to move out. She first bought a large house in Scotia, but it had a serious and constant basement flooding problem. After about a year, she had to sell it at a loss. She then rented an apartment for some time and only bought another house in 1984. Throughout those years, we visited our son and his family in Palo Alto whenever possible, especially when we attended meetings on the West Coast. Our son bought a house, and later his wife's parents moved in with them after retiring from Detroit. The grandchildren were developing well. Their father worked hard to cultivate their love of reading, thinking, art, and culture. Both children were intelligent and eager to learn. We also visited London several times for meetings and always stayed with our close friend who lived on Cable Street. She had 2 daughters, one an optician, the other an actress. Later, her marriage ended in divorce, and the atmosphere became less pleasant. In 1984, Helena received an invitation to the IUPAC Congress that was to be held in Poland in July 1984. She also received an invitation from Poznan University. We decided to combine this with a longer trip to Europe. We applied for visas in May at the Polish embassy in the United States, but were refused. The organizers intervened on our behalf. We left for Europe after the semester ended. Our first stop was France. I applied for visas at the Polish consulate there, but they were again refused. A note was accidentally left in our passports saying we were not welcome in Poland. We continued to Switzerland and West Germany, where the same thing happened. In Germany, we visited our old friends from Moscow days. The husband, a former deputy minister of chemistry and professor, had developed Alzheimer's disease, which made the visit very sad. From Germany, we went by train to Bologna, Italy. There, the Polish consulate in Milan suddenly urged us to come and collect the visas. After many phone calls and pressure from the organizers, who threatened to cancel the Congress, I traveled to Milan on a Saturday and finally received the visas. We then spent some rest time in Rimini before flying from Vienna to Poland. At the airport in Vienna, there was another problem with our entry permits, but after I called the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs and mentioned the possible cancellation of the Congress, the matter was quickly resolved. My cousin's husband and some former co-workers were waiting for us at the airport in Warsaw. We spent the night in a suburb and then went to Poznan for the Congress. We did not stay for the entire Congress. We returned early to Warsaw, visited our friends, and then continued to Israel for another meeting. We stayed with Ava and her family in Haifa. We returned to the United States in late summer 1984. That Christmas, we spent about a month with our son's family in Palo Alto. In May 1985, I retired from my position in Columbus and moved permanently to Schenectady to live with Helena. Before leaving Columbus, I sold our house there. I stayed for a while with friends until I moved north. Helena had bought a house in Schenectady in 1984. It was close to the college, about a mile away, but too small for our needs, especially when the children and grandchildren visited. It also required many repairs. I did what I could myself, and then we hired a contractor to build an addition, remodel the kitchen, improve the bathrooms, and repair the garage and roof. The contractor became a good friend and helped us with many projects. The renovations were quite expensive, but they finally gave us enough space for family visits. Now, settled in Schenectady, we could work together more efficiently. This brings us to the next chapter of our life from 1985 until we moved to the retirement community in New Jersey.